r/AskReddit, what show failed because someone left the show? As soon as they started swapping powers around, the whole premise of the show kind of disappeared. I have a feeling we're about to find out with The Witcher. It was only as good as it was because Cavill was passionate for the project and did his best to show a good Geralt and to push back against some of the worst decisions of the showrunners. With him out of the way, I'm not too sure that it's going to be any good at all. Cavill hard carried the show. 2.5 Men. I know Charlie didn't leave, but it was never the same. I saw Kutcher in one episode and was done. I love 2.5 Men. Besides Charlie, I also feel that when Jake grew older it lost its magic. Instead of growing up with Charlie traits, they just dumbed him down a lot. Scrubs without JD. This is exactly what I came to say. Perfect show for Brav. Career defining and the heart of the show. I mean, it started to slip when Dr. J and Iter left. Scrubs ended perfectly just for the channel to try and reboot a new series. The X-Files after Mulder left. Walking Dead ain't Walking Dead without Rick Grimes. 8 Rules for Dating My Daughter, but John Ritter passed away, so a little different. I mean, the show also played the immediate aftermath of the sudden loss of a loved one in a very open and unapologetic manner. This was a show my family would watch together every week. Ritter's passing was a shock and it wasn't the same. Hasn't failed yet, but have officially lost all interest in Grey's Anatomy now that Meredith has left, and I see a lot of others have the same opinion. They're trying so hard to keep the show going with a new batch of interns, but TBH, it should have ended a few years ago. I honestly lost interest not long after Dempsey left. Grey's Anatomy after most of the OG cast left. Christina, Lexi, Mark, Derek. They need to put that show out to pasture. Criminal Minds went downhill after Hutch and Derek left. I'm watching for the first time and I'm on season 4, it's still quite good, but I can't help but wonder what would have been had Mandy Patinkin stayed around. Gideon had this gravitas about him and portrayed so many emotions through so little words. Still enjoying the show, but Gideon really felt like the main character. The acting from Hotch, Prentice, and Reed save it for me now. Don't get me wrong, I did quite like Agent Doggett and the show's effort to continue, but you're absolutely right, Mulder is Mulder and you can't have X-Files without him. Edit. I'd just like to point out how much I love that people are still so passionate about X-Files even now. House of Cards, when Spacey left. A shit person but an amazing actor, really unfortunate. I stopped watching at the end of season 2, seemed like a perfect ending. Didn't need any more. The Good Wife went to shit after they killed off Will. Likewise with Sweets on Bones. They could have just had him go raise his kid with Daisy and help at a center again or something. The killing was unnecessary. Him not being there, making sure people actually resolved their issues, and missing the insights he gave into cases, was a detriment to the show. Finding out why they killed Sweets was worse. He wanted to leave the show on good terms because he, the actor, had better offers elsewhere. Writer/director got butthurt and had his character killed. How much coke did Charlie Sheen do? Enough to kill 2.5 men. I'm by winning. I win here, win there. I've got tiger's blood in me. First one that came to mind was that 70s show. When Topher Grace left, it jumped the shark. Rewatched the series last year and boy oh boy had it already jumped long before then. I think Eric leaving Donna at the altar, a full season before leaving the actual show, was the point of no return. The writing had been really inconsistent for a while by then, but calling off that wedding was the official sign that they were refusing to develop the characters any further into adulthood and would just keep sleepwalking through the now stale status quo. Sliders after the professor left. Of course, John Rhys Davis left because he felt the writing quality was going downhill, so he was just reading the writing on the wall. It was such a cool concept for a show that just didn't pan out. The X-Files once it left Vancouver. The city was a character in that show, it was never the same with all the LA sunshine. Yeah. Then Jerry O'Connell left, then Sabrina Lloyd, they killed that show good. Once Upon a Time was already dying a slow death, but the last season when many of the original cast left was unwatchable for me. I don't think I made it 10 minutes into the first episode. Dude, that show started off so fucking good, I ended it within the 3rd season maybe, I don't remember. It started just getting a little too loosey-goosey with the story. Craig Ferguson and The Late Late Show. Dude was such a charismatic comedic genius, and his replacement was such a moronic buffoon of an imbecile. Ferguson was amazing. It was truly a talk show, he threw away any prepared notes and had a conversation. Often, he'd have to throw in what they were pitching to be there. I hear you're in a movie guest, oh yeah. They were so into it, they forgot. It was tense across the board. I miss it. Game of Thrones without George Martin. Top Gear. Clarkson, May, and Hammond were the show. The problem with new Top Gear is that they tried to recreate Clarkson, Hammond, and May's repartee and humor, but with 7 presenters, only 2 of which were actually interesting to listen to and 1 of which was universally considered to be insufferable. And you just get too many cooks trying to recreate something that took a decade to perfect in 1 week. Glee after Cory Monteith died. It was generally bad after high school ended, but he was definitely the piece that held them all together. That show could have successfully gone on for years and years, with a regularly rotating cast, much like high school itself. But then they decided, nah, we're just going to focus on our original cast members even after they're out of high school / have left the central setting of the show, which did not work. News radio after Phil Hartman was killed. Beauty and the Beast tanked when Linda Hamilton left. Ron Perlman was great in that show. Haas left Bonanza. Altered Carbon after Joel Kinnaman left. Sad face. I think they could have better established the premise by having Kovacs leave a few times within the season, so the change in S2 wasn't so jarring. Kinnaman had amazing chemistry with Chris Connor, Poe, who really stole each scene, and Hijreta, Ortega. Yes, there were flashbacks, and S2 really tried to remind viewers that leaving was a thing and visual identities don't matter like our reality does, but it was lost to S1 viewers because they already imprinted on Kinnaman as the main character. The West Wing didn't fail when Aaron Sorkin left, but the quality went down significantly. I feel 5 suffered by trying to emulate a Sorkin and failing. I personally felt it upticked again once the Asintos and Amp, Vinnick stuff started, and the writers went their own direction. Yeah, the Toby story sucked, but I really liked the super focus to Josh as the main character and the election campaigns. H2O after the character Emma left. Oh Nour, the condensation. Wow, I had no idea anyone else watched that show, lol. Agree. The original trio were perfect together, and then trying to replace with a new girl and new storyline felt so weak and wrong. Came to say this one. I think they limped along for another year or so, but it wasn't the same. Kiinda this when the Golden Girls ended and spun off into Golden Palace without B.E.A. Arthur. I still like Silicon Valley without T.J. Miller, but it wasn't quite the same. Zach Woods held that show together. Do the writers for Dexter count? The X-Files when Mulder left. Coupling a British show. No Jeff No show. The first seasons of that show were so funny and clever. Silicon Valley on HBO didn't necessarily fail, but it probably would have been a lot more interesting if Peter Gregory, Christopher Welch, lived. Sadly he died after the first season. Oh god, it's Peter, he's gonna make that noise again. / answers phone to the sound of a long, dry retch / That 70s show, replacing Eric with Randy was truly awful. Pains me to say, Superstore. I say this as an Amy fan, the show should have been able to survive without her, the other characters were great as well. I thought Superstore struggled after Jonas / Amy became an official relationship. Still liked it for the other shenanigans in the show, especially Marcus' antics. Rob Morrow and S6 of Northern Exposure. Castle. They fired Stana after season 8, and though they technically got renewed, season 9 got cancelled after the backlash. I can't even watch reruns of Castle because I'm still pissed about this. News radio when they replaced Phil Hartman with John Lovitz. Nothing against Lovitz, but there really is no replacing Phil Hartman. I always gave Lovitz a pass after finding out he punched Andy Dick in the face after Dick was making jokes about getting Hartman killed. Shameless, US version, after Emmy Rossum left the show. The show was downhill earlier than that. I think the season Lip goes to college and becomes an alcoholic. At that point the show just kept repeating its self-destructive themes and it got wildly repetitive and stale. Early seasons were great, they should have ended after Jimmy left. ER slowly failed when Doug, Carol, Mark, Peter left. Crazy how the narrative has completely flipped on the cast of the show. I was a casual fan and remember hearing the Eric actor was a huge douche who didn't get along with the cast, that's why he left or was pushed off the show. Come to find out the cast was a whole bunch of rapists and rapist apologists. Not to mention a bunch of Scientology wackos. Eric was the glue in that show. It was garbage without him. It went on for over 10 years after Doug and Carol left. The exiting of Carter was the full downfall of the show. Shimmy Shimmy. 2015 500,000 baseball bats were sold in Russia. In that same year only a dozen baseballs were sold. What's your source of this? I mean sure 500,000 baseball bats sold makes sense, but only a dozen baseballs? In all of Russia. How many fifth-story windows were broken that year? There was this guy who was afraid of flying because there might be a bomb on board. He did a statistical analysis and the odds were low, but not low enough. He then did the analysis of the odds of having 2 bombs on board and he felt comfortable with those odds. So every time he traveled he took a bomb with him. There are more stars in the observable universe than there are grains of sand on all of the beaches of planet Earth. Also, there are more trees on Earth than stars in the Milky Way. After reaching the age of 18, 20% of the children who were in foster care will become instantly homeless. Link. Data indicate that 82% of transgender individuals have considered killing themselves and 40% have attempted suicide, with suicidally highest among transgender youth. Link. Being a Russian emperor was one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. 30.8% of rulers of the Russian Empire met a violent end. Misfits when the main cast started to leave. It just went downhill so fast. The chance of a woman meeting a man to date who is over 6 foot and making more than 100k salary is under 3%, like 2.5% to be specific. Less than 1% if they're also white, with the above. Is this for the whole world? Or localized to the US? $100,000 is a lot compared to the rest of the world, but I would have assumed 6 feet and 100k are much higher percentages in the US. Darn. I'm 6 feet 1 inch and make like 70k but should eventually hit 100k since I'm a software engineer. Hello everyone. Thanks for sticking to the end of this video. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to humbly ask you to subscribe to the channel. According to my statistics, 100% of my viewers in the past 28 days are not subscribed. I have always wanted this channel to reach 1000 subscribers, and if you want to support and be a part of that, subscribe. It's free and it's an awesome way to support the channel. Thanks again, Reddit glitch out.